It's almost midnight, Watchers. Are you ready to join the Midnight Watchers to talk about their favorite strange and scary movies?
Alrighty, welcome to episode number 5 of the Midnight Watchers. I'm Koji,
I'm Quentin.
And I'm Jennifer.
and we are here, and we're going to talk about a movie. Before we get to it, let's see how you guys are doing. How are you guys?
I'm good. I'm trying to shop for an exercise bike right now. So
Are you going to get a Peloton?
no, I'm gonna get a Life Fitness Cycle. Peloton is terrible.
Oh, really?
I mean, I got on one and it's just like I don't know what's doing for me. So, but I've been on a life fitness cycle for like 30 years. So I've decided I'm just gonna make the investment and buy one. But it's pretty expensive. A new one is like $6,000. Like a refurbished one is about maybe 2,000.
Yeah, my wife just got the rower machine thing in our house. So I felt bad for the UPS driver who had to carry that to the house, but it was fine.
Does she like using it?
I think she really, really likes it. Yeah, because she doesn't like to I love gyms. I love going to gyms, and she doesn't like going to gyms. So it's much better. For me, I love going out and being out and working out and stuff. But she wasn't into that. So. And how are you, Jennifer?
I'm good. It's funny you guys were talking about exercising. I was just thinking that too. I've definitely put on about 6-7 pounds, it seems, since this all went down. So I like incorporated a super high intensity jog for 45 minutes on Saturday in the heat when it was really hot. And I worked out so hard and I didn't drink enough water. I got a headache, one of those exercise headaches after, which means you're dehydrated. That means I worked out hard. So I'm just going to start doing some intense stuff, because I take walks with my son and I'm doing bands and foam roller and weights, but the cardio, I'm used to doing cardio at the gym. I'm a gym person too.
Yeah, me too. It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I love running too, but I hurt my back recently, so I haven't been able to run for a little bit. But we're getting back into it. I'm trying to get my son into the running. But let's go ahead.
Running supposed to be bad for your joints or something?
It's bad for your knee. It's not great for your knees, so especially as you get older. But it also depends on how you run. You know, like my son, when he runs, it's like he slams his foot on the ground. So I have to be quiet running. You know, to be really to because to me it's very zen-like. You know, it's like the same thing as I always found all the kids who did swim, who are on the swim team or water polo teams, we were pretty chill because swimming a 3,000 meter, it's 30 minutes of going back and forth without music, without talking, and you're just kind of in your head the entire time. And it's a tough place to be if you don't like to be in your own head. But anyway, let's get started. This week we're going to be talking about VHS. It's a 2012 movie. I'll read it real quick. 4 thugs who make money putting their violent antics online are hired to steal a VHS tape from a spooky old house. However, things take a turn for the worse when they find a dead pensioner and dozens more tapes. There are tons of writers and directors. The box office apparently was 1.9 million. And
I think it's 100,000 actually.
100,000? Wow.
Yeah. And
then it was done in 2012, and I saw it on Amazon. So let's get into it. What did you guys think of the movie?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Ladies first. No, ladies first. I go ahead.
Has anyone seen it yet? Was this everybody's first time?
No,
it was my first time. Yeah.
I saw it before. I've seen it. I've seen all the versions of it.
Oh, okay.
What are the other versions?
Well, there's VHS 2 and the VHS 3, I believe.
Okay, that's not a different version.
No, sorry, not a different version. A sequel.
Wow.
But it's not really a sequel either, because it's totally different, right? It's just the VHS part that's the same. But Jennifer, what did you think?
So I went into it hearing so much that it was really, really great. Oh, you have to see it. And I had no idea it was an anthology movie. So I was so excited about that. So I thought it was, out of all the movies we've seen as the Midnight Watchers, I felt like it was the one that I was the most scared. I felt like I was going to scream at any point, and I was doing all that. So that was super fun. Most scary, and I definitely got my favorites out of the different little vignettes or featurettes, whatever you want to call them.
What were your favorites?
My favorite is the first one. the fear, the I call it like the Furies, right? She was like a Fury. The devil winged girl. That was my favorite. And then my other second fave would be the last one, the haunted house with all the like Disney haunted mansion poltergeisty haunted stuff. That was probably my second.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it when those arms came out of the door.
I
And
know.
that was awesome. That was an awesome thing. Even though
That was actually a reference to Repression with Catherine Deneuve.
Really?
That's a Roman Polanski movie, yeah. So basically, in that movie, it's about Catherine Deneuve in an apartment, and then eventually all the arms came out. So that was actually a direct reference to Repression.
Wait, is that a horror, like a thriller, or like a
It's
horror
like
movie?
one of the early psychological horror that Roman Polanski made.
Wow, I'm surprised I haven't heard of it. And I love Catherine Deneuve. Always little tidbits from you, Quentin, that I learn. I love this. Okay, so very cool.
and Quentin, what did you think of the movie?
You know what? I think this movie is really designed for the small screen, because if you watch it in movie theater, you're gonna throw up. It's just too much of this handheld kind of thing that I'm not crazy about. It's just a little bit pretentious, and the thing that this is like a VHS thing. I think it's not Repression, it's Repulsion. Sorry.
Repulsion.
Repulsion by Roman Polanski, starring Catherine Deneuve. But I suppose what bothered me, a couple of things. I saw it on HD on Amazon, which doesn't quite make sense because VHS is only NTSC 480 pixels by whatever, right? And there were like webcam footage. I mean, one of the stories is told to webcam, right?
Right.
And how could you record webcam with VHS, which means that you have to first record onto your computer, then transfer it to the VHS, and it's just something about the format that didn't stick. I would prefer everybody just shot with stick with that conceit and shoot with a VHS kind of camera, right? And it's supposed to be VHS footage, from what So so I think. Yeah, I like the first one, but my favorite one is the last one with the haunted house one, because I think it's which one was directed by Adam Wingert?
I'd have to look that up. I only know which one was by
I'm curious because actually I do like Adam Wingert's work a lot. He recently directed Death Note, which actually was not the remake Death Note, which is not my favorite thing, but the one before about a drifter on Netflix, and then that was a really good thriller. He has a certain style that I really like. So it could be I think he might have directed the last one, because there's something that he's really smart about transforming an environment like a house and turns it into because it makes you look at something very differently. So because they use a lot of visual effects even in a very low tech kind of thing with transforming that house. So I thought that was really beautiful. He's really good at doing that, because I remember in this one thriller, he had a scene where the kids were going to a high school Halloween party, and the killer's pursuing them, and that was really cool. So he's definitely has a talent of creating an environment within, with visual effects that makes it really kind of cool and pleasurable to watch. So I think I like the last one, but I really didn't like the one about the webcam one, about the girl kind of like sticking stuff into her hand, and it's just like, at that level, it's really torture porn, but it's torture porn times 10. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I really like the last one. I mean, that was my favorite. Just having them try to get out of the house, that was really awesome. And I agree with Jennifer. This is my favorite of everything we saw. This is like the most although I don't know, maybe it's just as I'm getting older, but the characters are such jerks. In the beginning, they're like doing like all the not rape, but sexually assaulting people. And it's just like, it's like hard to watch after a while. It's just like, why? I mean, you can't have a horror movie where it's like the guys are great, but at the same time, it's like, wow, everything we're watching is about like these like terrible human beings. And I guess that's okay because it's horror and bad things happen to them. But at the same time, I'm just like, wow, all these people are so terrible. Because even in that first story, they're like, I mean, I was surprised that they didn't try to rape that girl.
So the wraparound story is about these guys that found those VHS tapes, right?
Yeah, but those guys were they were doing really mean things, and they're like assaulting women on the street and having them show their breasts and stuff, or they were doing like terrible things, right? And they were like I don't know. They're just, it was just, it made me really think about my love for horror movies. And now that everything we're watching is just so terrible.
Yeah, this is my least favorite because it's out of all the movies I've watched because it's very uneven. I think for me, I had to watch it because I had to do this podcast, but I had the opportunity to watch it like all along, but I just somehow wasn't able to get to it. But I do like the anthology kind of format. I think it's a really interesting format. And it's actually, the problem with anthology formats tends to be horror format particularly. It's pretty popular in Asia, but it just has never done quite well in North America. What is the first anthology horror film that you've seen or heard about? That's American.
Faces of Death?
No, it's actually Creep Show. Creep Show is actually one of the early one in 1982. It's a Stephen King comic book. It's a Stephen King thing, and George A. Romero, I think, directed all of them. It's called Creep Show. Then they made Creep Show 2. So that was the first attempt of doing an anthology horror feature, and somehow the performance has never been that great. And then so they, the other one is like Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt is another anthology TV series. So that kind of anthology styles, I think, is evolved from like TV stuff, right?
Yeah, well, and I think that's the challenge with anthology in general is that, if the ones that are bad, they really bring down the whole thing, and it's hard to keep watching because you're just like, wow, I'm not really into this. I mean, this is like when you go to a shorts program at a film festival, and you could have a really awesome short someplace in it, but then all you remember is the 3 that you couldn't wait for them to finish because they were just so bad or not interesting, and you're just waiting there because it's your friend or you were in it or whatever. But like it's the same thing with anthologies. It's like a lot of them, like, I mean, I love the first and last one on this one, but like the other ones I kind of zoned out at points because I was like not really interested. Whereas in a feature, you're involved in these characters, right? You're involved in the story, and it's like the same people all the way through, which is one of the challenges.
But you should know because the Japanese actually is very pioneering in creating anthology horror films. Do you know which one?
No, I
In
have
the
no idea.
1960s, it's Kaidan.
Oh, okay.
Kaidan. Yeah, that is actually one of the most famous international horror film that actually made money in a lot of countries. It's called Kaidan, and then I think the British started making them in the 60s, also 60s, 70s. Hammer House of Horror. Hammer was a British studio that made all the Dracula movies. Then they started making a bunch of anthology movies. One of them is called The Skull and something that dripped blood. And so that anthology horror started from there, and then it sort of like stopped for a while, and then Creep Show picked up and then did the first theatrical anthology in America. And then now the next wave is probably like something like VHS or something like that.
Did you say George A. Romero did?
George A. Romero did Creep Show, yeah.
Like
Creep
after
Show, 1982, after Dawn of the Dead. I think it was almost a step to Hollywood. I can look it up.
Yeah, maybe right before Monkey Shines.
Yes, Monkey Shines in the 90s. Creep Show is 1982 or 84.
So cool.
I think it's Warner Brothers that, or at least it's like through the home video of Warner Brothers, but. Yeah, Creep Show is the really famous kind of like anthology. George A. Romero. But one thing why Creep Show works better is because even its different stories, there's actually consistent sort of like style, and because it's directed by one director.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of times the anthology now is directed by multiple directors, and there isn't again like the that type of consistency in terms of stylistic. So you're not really sure what to expect. Maybe it's good. Actually, Hideo Nakata is doing a new version of Kaidan, which is the original Kaidan is actually very famous. Even my grandmother saw it. It was anyways, it's in the 60s. It's very, very famous, and this one story is that about this woman was like dying, and she's combing her hair, and then all this, it's a ghost kind of thing, and then all this hair comes out. I think the husband is trying to poison the wife or something, and then she came back for revenge later. Yeah.
Well, Jennifer,
go ahead.
As Jennifer, as a woman, I'm curious to think, like when you watch all these horror movies and women are treated so terribly in seemingly all of the ones we've watched, What are your thoughts? I was thinking about you as I was watching all this and kind of how you feel about this, because it made me feel uncomfortable. I'm not even a woman, so I was kind of.
I know. It's just, you know, a lot of it is just like old tropes and sort of old chauvinistic sort of themes that are in our culture already. And so I think that the idea of witches and sirens and women are the ones that maybe have a different kind of power over men, a little bit more magical or witchy, as opposed to using pure brawn and stuff. I think there's got to be definitely something that goes back to old school mythology, and of course just a male dominated, you know, Western world. And so that there's those themes sort of sprinkle these stories, and these stories are retold, right? A lot of these stories have the same themes. They're just sort of recycled and retold that reflect, you know, current trends and cultures and stuff. So I think that it comes from something from a long time ago, storytelling wise, and then
Did it make you feel uncomfortable, or how do you when you watch?
When I watched VHS, it made me think, oh gosh, yes, women always the victim of sexual assault and sexualized and things like that. And so, and VHS was like basically all white dudes getting shat on because of their bad boy tendencies, I guess. Their sort of beefcake tendencies that meathead where it was a lot of these men in the VHS stories. So it was sort of like a little, yeah, that's what you get feel.
But I thought the last story subverted that whole kind of like, you know, woman in pearl kind of thing, where you thought she was actually a victim. They rescued her, and then she became the you know, the monster that ended up killing the guys, right? Have you read have you guys read Chainsaw Women and something, as a Carol Clover book? She's a professor at Berkeley. So basically, she argues that horror films, very much like, you know, the beginning of gender in the Industrial Revolution, that horror films goes back to a pre-industrialization kind of gender system, where there's a one-sex system versus a two-sex system. The two-sex system came out because of scientific revolution, when you have to start identifying the male genital and the female genital. But before that two-sex system, it's only a one-sex system. So gender is a continuum. So if you could be considered more female, and you could be considered more male. And you can see the system working, for example, in Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, where you know, the partner is considered like a woman, like, or whatever, right? So and she argues that horror movies in general are not misogynistic, but rather it's referring back to an older historical kind of like a one-sex system, where if you are a man, you become the aggressor, and you're a woman, you're usually the victim. But the woman eventually transforms, because if you look at most of the slasher movies from like Friday the 13th to whatever, women get killed, men get killed, but eventually this one woman eventually becomes the hero and kills the killer, right? So the whole idea of that she transforms from a woman becomes a man. And so basically, when you look at horror movies, it makes more sense to look at it from the one sex system, where gender is defined by basically aggression.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. What's the book called again?
It's Carol Clover book. It's called Texas Women Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I've heard of this book, and I don't know if you told us about it before, Quentin, or if I'd heard about this, and I hadn't read it, but I had read that she had a theory on
Men, Women, and Chainsaws. Yeah, so that's basically her theory. It's of Thomas Lacour, who's also another professor at Berkeley, and it's the theory about the whole one-sex and two-sex system, and how Industrial Revolution and Scientific Revolution transform the one-sex system into the two-sex system through identification of genitalia. And again, like now we're going back to the one-sex system, because, you know, there's all this talk about transgender and stuff like that. I'm genderqueer. I don't identify with a certain gender. So So you can just tell the two-sex system apparently is being slightly repealed and going back to this whole idea that, you know, we don't need to know what kind of gender I am, and that genitalia does not identify, you know, gender.
Super
Come full
interesting.
circle. Right.
And the one horror movie that is very interesting is called The Sleepaway Camp. Have you seen that?
No.
The Sleepaway Camp is one of this famous movie that features a transgender killer. So basically, you know, in the beginning, it's just like a bunch of kids go to camps, and then they get killed off one by one, and you know, in all slasher movies, you try to who is the killer. So at the end, the killer is one of the girls who actually is transgendered, and the last shot, it's like the camera pulls back and you see her killing this guy, and then you see his male genital, her male genital, his male genital, their male genital. So Sleepaway Camp is also a very interesting movie in terms of that sort of like subverts the gender kind of the typical way we look at gender, and that kind of ties to like Carol Clover's theory.
Wow. Sleepaway Camp. That's a good one to watch.
Yeah, it's 1984, I think, and they keep making Sleepaway Camp. They have been making Sleepaway Camp through 2, 3, 4, 5 or something. Yeah.
Well, so Jennifer, what was your least favorite moment or most memorable? Sorry, let me take it back. What's your most memorable moment from the movie?
That
will stick in your head.
Yeah. So the fourth one, the webcam one. And by the way, Quentin, I agreed when I was watching the sort of Skype FaceTime, right, the fourth movie with the girl digging in her arm for the transmitter and stuff. I remember thinking like, wait a minute. So does this mean it was like, how did it get in a VHS? Yeah, but then I just let it go. But that one, I think, was kind of stuck out at me because I had to sort of stop and figure out what happened. Because when you figure out that her love interest is like a doctor and doing experiments, and I was trying to figure out like what exactly was going on. So that one, there was like a lot more like you had to kind of come up with your own story and backstory, because I didn't quite know. Yeah, it's like torture porn, like sort of that body horror stuff. But then again, there was ghosts. It seemed like a ghost story at first, right? And then it wasn't. And then it was like, what was she like? They were doing experiments on her. That was the one where I was like, interesting. I would like to see what you guys thought that one was about.
Yeah, I think they're playing off the UFO thing, right? Where they're being like, she's like, or UFO and ghosts like abducted, and they're doing experiments, and it turned out not to be. But yeah, I actually didn't hate that as much as I think you guys seem to not like it. But I thought that was I love anything UFOs. I would love to have more UFO content, to be honest with you. But
no, yeah, I think it's a lot of I think the UFO idea is a lot of unexplored kind of thing, because we've been only so used to seeing this abduction thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Quentin, what was your favorite part or most memorable part from the movie? Was there any memorable part?
I just like that the haunted house kind of thing. After they came back down from the attic, and you really see the house, and you see how the house is being haunted, and then all the hands came out, and then I can immediately see that was like a reference from not repression. What is it? Repulsion. So I was like, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was so fun because it was, I think they dated it to be 1998. You know, they made it look like it was like an older VHS. And I love that it looked all gritty, you know, like those pots flying and things. It was just like, ooh, it looked so real. And yet it wasn't super high def, right? But it just felt so real. Yeah, that one was so great. I mean, that's probably why the first and fifth were like some of our favorites. They bookended the, ones that were maybe not as unanimously loved.
What
my
was the
least favorite was the second one.
What was the second one about?
The honeymoon. The second.
Oh, is that the one going to the park or something? Not going to the woods?
Mm-hmm.
That's the third one.
It was like the shortest one where she's taking her man on a honeymoon, and they go to like the Grand Canyon, and she ends up killing him with her love interest, lover.
That was my favorite moment is when they're sleeping and somebody's videotaping them in a hotel. That's like that's like a thing that I'm super like when I go out on vacations, when we were able to vacation at some point, that's always my worry is that somebody's gonna come in the room while I'm sleeping because you're not home, right? So it's like it's a lot more to me. It's a lot more scary. That was probably like the scariest moment. I mean, that I didn't love that storyline, but I love that moment because I think that is to
Which
me.
was sorry, which was the one that she sort of went to the woods or something, and there's a killer? Is that the same one or no? The third one.
The third one, yeah, that's
Okay.
That's the one where she's like, it's like the invisible one, right?
Yeah,
Or,
but what is that about? I totally didn't get it. It's like a killer is invisible?
yeah, Jennifer, do you want to try to explain it?
Yeah, I was wondering what you guys is that because at first I was like, oh, it's another dimension, you know? That's why they're static. And then but then she tries to set a booby trap and kill him, and then he does sort of get stifled for a moment. So then I was like, oh wait, he is an actual being like in this dimension, but then he survives it. So maybe he's is from another dimension. But I felt like it was some kind of like, yeah, other dimension thing, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I love the part I love about that story was when she says you're all gonna die. You know, like I thought that was awesome. But then it became lame when you saw the monster. I almost thought that she should have just been the one that killed everybody and just gone with that storyline instead of having this like mythical monster, or it's a trap and she set it all up. At least like that would be interesting to me
Because she was trying to prove that that thing exists, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then she gets killed too at the end, is she?
Yeah, because you can't kill this thing because it's seemingly like a mythical creature or in a different dimension or something. But yeah, to me it was like, yeah, that was weak because once you saw, it's kind of like when I saw Signs, you know, M. Night's movie, and then when you're seeing like right when you see the alien, you're like, oh, that's lame. I'm not really in, you know, like. But up until that moment, you're like, oh, is it real? Is it fake? I don't know. Like, what's happening? You know, it's exciting. There's like tension, and then right when I saw the fuzzy like monster thing, I was like, not interesting. You know, not like it's not that great anymore, right? To me, at least.
Well,
What did you think it was about, Jennifer?
The third one?
Yeah. Did you have did you have a question on it or?
Yeah, I just was like, what is he? Is he like of this earth? And it was just like, for some reason, it couldn't be recorded, or did he have some sort of like supernatural or sci-fi element? He came from another dimension, you know? And that's cool because you make up your own story regarding that. Yeah, I mean, they were all fun. I loved how different they all were and how it was all tied together. Even if, yeah, sometimes you had to be like, wait a minute, how did they all end up on a VHS? And like, for the most part, I think it all made sense. It was just so fun. Such a great movie. I'm glad I finally saw it. I really want to see the other two. So Koji, how are the second and third one, the sequels?
To be honest, they all kind of run together at this point. So I have no idea like which one's what. I mean, that's one of the problems with anthology is that you have so many. After a while, it's just like I can't distinguish between. That's why when I watch this one, it's like almost like brand new to me, even though I know I've seen it a couple times. It's like, oh, okay, because after you see like 12 of these, 13, 14 of these stories, you're just like, I don't know where I saw what, and you know, like to me that's one of the issues. But for a while they were all three were on Netflix, and I think that's when I saw it, when they were all three on Netflix. And I remember just reading about how they were useful. But you know, Koji, we should make a wait, hold on, no, we should make a anthology. I don't like, you know, there should be like that's one of those things that seems like it's like you just get a bunch of filmmakers that are good.
I mean, we tried that actually with after the first Asian American New Wave kind of thing, Shopping with Fangs and Yellow and Strawberry Fields premiered. Chris Chanley did something called Obits, so we were all supposed to shoot a short film, and actually they put it together.
Oh, they did? What is it called?
Yeah, Obits,
Obits?
Obits. Yeah,
I've never seen it.
I think Justin did something. I think it's just a lot of the coordination of it. It just needs to be one producer that does doing all of that. It's just like rather than leaving up to filmmakers that does this and that, you know.
What do you mean by that? You mean that that one person organizes everything?
No, it just needs like a strong producer to be there and just to make sure everybody does
What they say.
kind of like VHS. You just have to make it like a feature film, and you kind of say, oh, okay, you make a shot, and then it's hard to put it together.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I think we've reached the end. You guys, let's do in 3 seconds, I'll count down to 3. You guys put a thumbs up or thumbs down if you guys recommend this movie to our audience, and then for those that aren't watching, I'll definitely let everyone know what everyone votes. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, so Jennifer and I both gave it thumbs up, and Quentin gives it a thumbs down. So I think that's everyone could have told that from our conversation. But thank you guys for watching that, and let's make sure everyone please subscribe and rate and review our podcast. We're on all the podcast platforms, so let people know about it, and also come to our social media on Facebook and Instagram as Midnight Watchers Pod across the platforms, and let us know what you guys want to listen to. And thank you so much. Thank you, Quentin. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.